All right, if you know downtown Salt Lake City, you know the man I'm about to talk to. It is Ken Sanders. Thanks for joining me, Ken.
My pleasure, Richard. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Glad we got the chance to sit down and talk.
Yeah,
Finally.
you've been, just a little background, you've been a contributor to source material for Utah Stories for years.
Yeah, I'm happy to do so when I know something.
Yeah, it's like I wanted, it was amazing. I think one of the earliest things I did with you was I wanted to know more about the Lost Roads mine.
Oh, geez.
And I walk in your store and you've got just all these books, and it crosses the line between could be real folklore. You just don't really know if there's this buried treasure out there.
It attracts a certain crowd.
Mm-hmm.
I published back in 1980, the very first book my Dream Garden Press publishing company published was Gail Rhodes and Carrie Ross Boren's Footprints in the Wilderness, a history of the Lost Roads mines.
Mm-hmm.
And it's intriguing stuff. But the thing about lost gold and lost treasure stories, at the end of the day, even if they get temporarily found, they're always lost again.
Yeah, and the whole folklore. I encourage people to go pick up the book you published because it's just fascinating. It goes back all the way to the Nephites and the golden
Mormon gold, the Nephites, the Spanish gold, the sacred Indian gold. It's George Thompson, late kind of popular historian, as I call him. He wrote his first book was on Treasure Mountain Home on Park City, and then he did Some Dreams Die on Utah's Ghost Towns and Lost Treasures. And then he did Faded Footprints to wrap up all the different lost roads and gold mine stories. Mm-hmm. The true or not, they're a lot of fun.
Yeah, they are. They're awesome. So I thought, there's so much we can talk about, but something I've been really fascinated with is downtown of the 1980s. You opened up, I don't know if it was the 80s or even before that, but you had a Cosmic Airplane, which was is a publication. Was it publication first and then a store?
No.
What is the order in?
The Cosmic Airplane originally was a hippie shop, Salt Lake City's first head shop at 9th and 9th in 1967. Steve Jones, Sherm Clow opened it there.
Oh, okay.
With imported beads and bells from San Francisco.
Nice.
Incense and psychedelic posters.
It's a total hippie shop.
Phillips Gallery, they were there then. Over the years, Mother Earth's Things was there. Dave Fagioli's Round Records and Bound Books was there. Black and White Bookshop was there. Nature's Way was there. The Connection, another head shop. That neighborhood's always been an incubator for the underground, for the hip.
And it was like a little Hayton-Ashbury type place.
Yeah,
like that,
a little emphasis on the little.
Yeah.
Steve was only there for about a year. He moved into an old cavernous warehouse almost next door to the Rio Grande Depot. South Temple, Fourth West, no man's land in those days. In 1968, he would have moved in there. Mm-hmm. Bruce Phillips became Utah Phillips and ran for Senate on the Peace and Freedom ticket. Rocks and Graveler the blues band, Smoke Blues Band, got their start in the back room. The Human Ensemble Theater got their start in the back room of the Cosmic, where Steve slept on a cot.
Really?
And it was this cavernous place. He just let anybody do anything. I had a big old magazine rack full of illustrated books and comic books and sci-fi and shit that I was into when I was young. And he just let people do their thing there. And it was Ben's Railroad Exchange was next door to us. The Ophelia Taylor's Cafe was around the corner in the alleyway.
What was the Railroad Exchange?
It was an old working man labor bar.
Oh, just a bar, huh?
For working men, white men, not women, not
nothing else.
Black people. Mm-hmm. The Waiter and Porter's bar in the Rio Grande Depot and Mrs. Taylor's was where Black people could go and eat and drink as late as in the 1960s in Salt Lake City. Seems inconceivable to us now.
Yeah.
But I lived through all that. The Bens became the Sun, the gay club that's still with us today.
Oh, okay.
They got their start at that spot.
Wow.
Steve always had dreamed of having a bookstore. By 1975, he approached me about managing a store for him and a new partner he was taking in, Bruce Roberts, an old 60s radical up at the U, SDS guy. He'd been left some money in his family, and he invested $50,000, and I talked my way into a three-way partnership, and the three of us, beginning in 1975, gave birth to the Cosmic Airplane Books and Records.
Okay.
Tony Martinez was the head shop manager. He went on to fame as the Blue Boutique chain. Smokey Kelsch ran our record shop, and for many, many years he had Smokey's Records at 15th and 15th next door to Betsy Burton's King's English.
I remember that.
A lot of folks. Camille Chart went on to run a shop up in 9th and 11th called Chameleon Artware. An awful lot of the original folks that worked for us in the Cosmic Airplane years, the 70s, went on to form their own stores.
That's really cool. So it was literally a local business incubator.
Absolutely.
And it got people it allowed people to kind of test their idea and find a market and then grow their little ma and pa business out of it.
Steve's dream was always to have a coffee shop, so he started selling shares in the Cosmic Airplane Coffee House. Those days we didn't know that those sort of things were called securities, and they were regulated by the state and federal governments. So that got shut down pretty quickly. I think I gave him $10 for my share. Coffee shop.
When you guys sort of officially incorporated a business and you had your book and magazine shop, when did you initially get into thinking I want to publish as well? Like, how did your little magazine come out of that?
Well, we started with, we had the head shop. I created the bookstore. We had the record shop. We had the gift shop. And we kept expanding into different bays on First South there. Between 2nd and 3rd East, it was, that district was Film Row. Nobody knows this. The Cinegrill restaurant was just up the street from us, and it was named that. The old Blue Mouse Art Theater was a studio theater, and that little block, my old rare book room, was cellulose nitrate film storage vault. So the vault you were in had a chimney, and it would just burn that up if the film caught fire instead of burning the whole place down. And nobody knows that history of Film Row in Salt Lake City anymore. I remember the Blue Mouse.
I remember seeing a French film when I was a little kid
there. The films I saw at Blue Mouse, let's just say we'll leave it at 2. Eraserhead and Rocky Horror.
Eraserhead. That was David Lynch, right?
Oh my stars and whiskers.
Yeah.
So there was a book that had been self-published called Footprints in the Wilderness, Gail Rhodes and Carrie Ross Borden. I couldn't find the thing, and people bugged me to death. I was getting $50, $100 for it then. And one day, Gail Rhodes walks into the shop and said, I spent the last 10 years rewriting this book, and I got a new book, and I'm looking for a publisher. Publisher? I can sell that book. I had a banker friend at Zions Bank. I called him up, and I went down there and signed a piece of paper, and he gave me $5,000 and put it in my brand new account. And I used that money to publish my very first book. I've published a lot of strange books between now and then. And for 10 years, I published the Edward Abbey Western Wilderness Calendar, which morphed into a line of 17 different national park and wilderness calendars. I published them in cooperation with the Grand Canyon, with Yosemite, with Yellowstone, Big Bend, Great Smokies. It was a whole empire. And all I'll say about that is by in the late 80s, early 90s, it all collapsed. It's too long a story to tell, but I got left with a lawsuit, and the guy that stole my company from me sold it for $5 million. And I got squat.
Oh man.
That's the Reader's Digest version.
Wow.
But I came back from that, and I was kind of, for a long time, in the 80s, I had offices over on 7th West, a few blocks south of Corky Raw's Summum Pyramid Temple complex.
Wow.
In the old K&AK radio studios. Got a really cheap deal on rent, and then as the things were collapsing around me, I moved out to a couple of different locations in South State Street, where my parents owned a block of buildings there, and they had one they really weren't using, so I got free rent for a few years. And when my daughter was still a teenager, 28 years ago, I went down. Bruce Roberts, my old Cosmic partner, was running a book distribution business out of my old bookstore. And genius, and I'm not, I said, duh, this will make a pretty good bookshop. So I started paying the rent, kept moving Bruce's stuff further and further to the back room till I got him out. And my daughter and I, in September of 1997, opened up the latest incarnation of what's always been Ken Sanders Rare Books, or the ghost of the Cosmic Airplane, if you will. Mm-hmm. Only people of a certain age know what Cosmic Airplane is. Yeah. And I never ever meant to go back into retail, but I did. And
what was the period of time between Cosmic closing and you opening Ken Sanders there on 3rd?
Well, it was pretty south? Well, oh gosh, that probably a long time. 81 to 97.
Oh wow, okay.
But I had 2 other locations in between.
Yeah.
Cosmic Airplane was my first real store. I created.
Yeah.
Not the head shop. That was Steve. Not the record shop. That was Smokey. Not the gift shop. That was Camille and Karen and others. But I created the bookstore. One time we had 30 employees. When I was forced out in 81, we were grossing $1.4 million.
Wow.
It was pretty successful.
Money back then.
I never made any of it. And now, Rich, almost 30 years later, I'm clearly not ready to quit. I'm not dead. I haven't gone out of business. We've moved. And I'm really trying to get the word out, because people just think what they want to think. Mm-hmm. We have, through the graces of the Leonardo Museum and Salt Lake City, Mayor Mendenhall, and the City Council, 3 years ago, they voted 7-0 to allow me, because I'm not a nonprofit. They can do anything they want with nonprofits there, but I ain't one of those. Mm. And we moved in. We've been trying to make it work. We moved in full time as of September of last year. We've survived the pandemic. I think we've survived the move, but it's been so stressful. I'm still moving. My truck in the parking lot is full of books right now. I got to go unload. We're still moving.
That square footage you have in the back, that's just enormous.
The old building is, the old store is 4,000 square feet. We've got, with all the nooks and crannies, excuse me. With all the nooks and crannies, we've got almost 8,000 square feet on 3 different floors.
That's crazy.
Of the 5-story Leonardo.
Yeah, it seems like the space is just so massive that you could almost make it into another library, downtown library.
Well, it was a library. It began as a library in 1964. What we've renamed the Ken Sanders Rare Books Underground used to be the public library reading room.
Yeah, and I actually loved that old library. I loved how huge and vast it was, and you could always find a quiet place to go. And so switching gears, so obviously you've been a downtown institution. Everybody knows your shop. The thing I've loved about your shop, when I shared Third South with you when we had our office there, was I'd have a story idea, and I'd say, I want to learn more about Edward Abbey. And of course you were friends with him and R. Crumb, and you helped publish these books. where you published his Monkey Wrench Gang with R. Crumb, which is an amazing piece. Uh, and you've just been this fixture down there, and you talk about, you know, the social fabric of a community consists of a small business. You know, you don't ever think of, oh, I just love that cheesecake factory in Salt Lake, I'm going to fly there so I can just go eat there.
Let's have another chain restaurant. Let's have another chain hotel. Let's have another bland piece of Americana. That's not what make great cities great. Mm-hmm. And along those lines, I don't care if it's, you know, eBay, Amazon, let's just call them billionaires. Mm-hmm. Why, over and over again, do we, the people, throw all our money at giant billionaire corporations and individuals at the expense of local, homegrown, indigenous businesses? Mm-hmm. Could you please explain that one to me? And we're doing it again. The governor, both city and county mayor, have signed off on giving billions of dollars to billionaires to build sports complexes. Yeah. Ryan Smith and the Larry Miller family. Why don't they use their own damn money to build those things with and save the taxpayer money? How about building shelters and services for homeless people? How about, if you're going to give eBay $10 million and you're going to give sport billionaires billions of dollars, where's the money for the rest of us? Why aren't you servicing the small businesses that are struggling through the pandemic and inflation and everything else? Why aren't we helping our small businesses? Bookstores don't have they have a bad mortality rate. I sure as heck wouldn't want to run a restaurant, and they're way worse than a bookstore. I don't have to throw my product away at night when it doesn't sell, at least.
And it's just like, it's hard enough already to be a small business, but you got to give all the chain restaurants, all the chain stores this huge leg up. And you got that City Creek Center sitting there. General Growth Partners run that, and they give huge discounts to every single tenant there.
But the rack rate is $75 a square foot.
Yeah. What if you don't have some kind of partnership, you're the Apple Store and you're in 20 other locations they have.
What in God's name am I going to sell that I can pay $75 a square foot in rent?
Mm-hmm. And it's all about, we reported this over the last 18 years. It's all about trying to dominate and monopolize the buying public. And when you had downtown where it was split between, you know, the north half where you had the LDS businesses, ZCMI Center, and then all of the ZCMI businesses, and then on the south half you had Auerbach's and Paris Company and Baker Shoes and Broadway Music. It was like you had a balanced street, and you had a kind of a symbiosis. Like you could go to the LDS quarters and go to fun places around, you know, ZCMI, but then you had a Jewish area, and then you had a whole bunch of different restaurants and diversity. But now that balance of power is obviously tipped, and it's just corporate retail domination. We're going to keep everybody in that mall, you know, monopolize their dollars.
18 years ago, when Utah Stories started at Third South, it was a vibrant neighborhood. We had 15 to 20 businesses open for the monthly gallery strolls. And particularly over the past 6 years, they've systematically killed it. On my side of 200 East, every single building except mine and the Green Ants has already been torn down, and they can't wait to push ours down.
Yeah, how come the city leaders don't see this? That's my question. It's like, obviously you're stronger if your economic engine is more segmented than if all of your economic engine is based on corporate America siphoning dollars out of our economy. Why don't they see that? Why don't they help balance that equation?
I don't have an answer for it. I have to say, I would be out of business if it weren't for our mayor and our city council. Mm-hmm. So they have helped me.
Yeah.
And I don't mean,
and that's a good thing they've done that.
Yes, and I praise them for that every interview I do.
Yeah.
But it's not enough, and it's not just about me. Mm-hmm. Our small businesses are struggling. The pandemic, between the feds, the state, and the locals, they gave away millions and millions and millions of dollars fraudulently to people that already have the money?
Yeah.
Why aren't they giving it to those of us that don't have the money? And again, back to the eBay, Amazon thing, I don't want to get into the argument. Is it okay to use our tax money like that or not? Let's just ignore that argument. But it exists. They gave $10 million. Where is the $10 million fund for local indigenous businesses? That's all I'm saying. Why don't we get a chance at it like they do? They've just bent over hand and fist to give away all these billions for Major League basketball, hockey, baseball stadiums. And that's not going to put 1 red cent in my pocket.
And
period.
how they justify it is obviously those neighborhoods where they insert those stadiums, the hockey stadium and the baseball stadium on the west side, those neighborhoods will benefit. And there'll be a lot more economic activity, and there'll be a bunch of condos and apartment buildings. But my question is then, why don't you just put that money into affordable housing directly in that area and open up cheap housing for a few thousand people? That would also spur economic activity. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Well,
other than
I'm a bookseller, not an economist, but the challenges to running a business, especially when the construction forces for 6 years. We went to move yesterday. I got a truck rented, everything, and a crew. I'm following. Right before me, a giant utility truck turns into the driveway of the bookstore. And they're going to park there and do something. Like, hey, excuse me. No. They were nice about it. They moved and they went in from the other way. Mm-hmm. But if I'd been 5 minutes late, what am I supposed to do? They don't ask me. Mm-hmm. The construction people, I don't want to get into names. We had an incident with construction workers stealing all our parking. The bookstore's closed down. I'll soon be gone. It'll be torn down. It ain't going to matter. But guess what? It's not their parking. It's mine. Mm-hmm. We show up to do something. We're opening for a 2-day sale, and my bookstore manager starts going out there and photographing them. They've got all 8 spots filled. Jeez. And they see her from the high rise.
And they think it doesn't
matter.
And
so they come running down because they don't want to get towed.
You think it's fine because you're
So she
out.
Goes over to talk to him about it. They just made fun of her, ridiculed her, and called her a bitch.
Really?
So we called the police, and we called people at the city. That was 2 weeks ago. I don't know. No one's done a follow-up with me to find out what happened, but I can guarantee you since that day, there hasn't been a construction vehicle parked in my parking lot. I don't know what got said to whom, but apparently, and we'd been in charge of the management of the construction company, told them, I can't control them. Oh, great. You, Mr. Manager of a gigantic construction company, cannot control your workers. Well, I don't even know if they are my workers. That's not helpful, sir. That's not helpful.
What a joke.
And it's just they shut the roads down. They have cement trucks. The noise, the construction goes on late at night, early in the morning. The dust, the pollution. And it's been killing my business for 6 years. Mm-hmm. Where's the compensation for that? Why isn't there? The city, I've learned a lot. The city is in charge of giving out business permits, okay? Licenses, construction, and setting all the rules. But guess what? The one part of this they don't control. How much those licenses cost. The state of Utah, the legislature, is in charge of that. And given the enormous quantity of legislatures who are in various real estate, construction, and development businesses, they will never allow those prices to go up. Mm-hmm. The construction project across from me is, I've been told, is $350 million. Wow. Why isn't there 10% of that, 1% of it? Why isn't there a $3.5 million contingency fund that goes to every resident and business impacted on the blocks that development impacts? Why aren't we making them pay their fair share? Because
That's a
they
great
are
question.
taking the money away from people like me.
Well, and they're also, I mean, I look at that block and what it was 18 years ago and what it is now. It's like they're absolutely redesigning the character of it. Like it used to be quaint and short and
Mhm.
made for small business, like made for walking and strolling and window shopping. And now the character is, oh, we're skyscrapers and we're sterile and metallic and concrete. And then you walk down and the new state liquor stores rising up high, and it's all glass
right
and
behind
steel.
me.
And it's like, so they're tearing down your amazing block to build a parking lot for the liquor store. Is that what I've heard?
I don't. Rumors are it's the driveway.
So there we got a really fancy, nice liquor
I'm
store
sure
instead of a great.
I'm sure the alley will get named after me, right? I thought there's a great line from Edward Abbey novel called "Fire on the Mountain" about the U.S. government forcing ranchers off their lands for the Los Alamos project after World War II down in New Mexico. The rancher John Vogel says, "Why is it that progress always has to progress over me and the coyotes?"
That's pretty good. Yeah, it's just sad to watch, and everybody who witnesses it that thinks it's sad. But then, yeah, it's in the name of progress. This is what downtown should look like, I suppose. But according to who? It's just I
What's the trade-off? What are we getting for it? Are we getting cleaner air? Are we getting what's the trade-off here?
yeah.
Again, to quote my late friend Edward Abbey, growth for the sake of growth is the ideology of the cancer cell.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like you see all these people coming to Utah now. And I saw this happen in Denver 15 years ago. I started watching what was happening in Denver, and I thought, this is going to be happening. Because you want to see Salt Lake in the future, just look at Denver. And it was the same thing. Just massive amounts of apartments and condos and taking old warehouse districts, places where there was manufacturing one day and the granary area, and converting it to hip lofts and places where people could live, work, play. And that's exactly what we've gotten. Right. But it's like when you examine it, what I feel like is just the total missing piece that it seems they preserve more in Denver is just inexpensive, affordable, low rent areas where businesses can still thrive. Small businesses can thrive. I don't see that anywhere, and I don't see them incentivizing the building of that anywhere. So
what we've adapted with the Leo, we have 1,600 square feet on the main floor, and that's precious real estate, and we pay for that. But we've had to spread out onto three different. The other two levels are underground levels. That space isn't usable or rentable by itself. Mm-hmm. We're 1 and 2 stories underground.
Yeah, so you kind of get them to come in on the retail level and go downstairs.
And it's being difficult.
Yeah.
But we're doing our best. We think the opportunities to grow with the Leo in the city, we're trying to find ways to adapt to things. Do you know how many times the city closes down 2nd East, my front door, to bicycle marathons, jogging marathons, Days of 47 parades, living tradition, art festival? That means, and in the past, what they've done is they literally walled the library and the Leonardo out of these things. And I'm going, hey, wait a minute, I'm here now. Mm-hmm. You can't shut
they just
my
put
door.
The fence in front of the Leonardo.
Yeah, so how about like opening it up and incorporating? You've got these incredible resources, the library and the Leonardo, and now me there. Make us part. It won't work for everything, but things like the Arts Festival, Living Traditions, also a lot of these festival things that close, especially with the setup and teardown, you're looking at 10 to 14 days. Mm-hmm. So, okay, does anyone want to pay me $3,000 a day for shutting me down? I don't think I'm going to get very far with that.
Yeah, that's
terrible. So why not make us a part of it? Open us up to it. Guess what we've got for the summertime, Rich? air conditioning.
Yeah.
We can do readings, we can do events indoors throughout our 3 different levels. And so can the library, and so can Leonardo.
And yeah, and I'm looking at, I've looked at downtown Salt Lake and what it's shaped into, and how the bookstores for me have always been landmarks because I love books. And you look at Main Street now, and you see Weller's Books was transformed to a different bookstore.
Weller's was on that. Now they moved on. They were on 2nd South before they moved into Main Street when I was a kid.
Oh, really?
But
okay.
But Sam Weller's Books was on
that was
Main
such an incredible
at that
shop.
same location for 50 years.
Yeah, and now it's just empty. It's just
sitting there rotting.
And I guess the brothers who owned it thought that they could tear it down and build something better, and lost the financing. And you see that same story has been played out in a few different locations. I see the
old Coachman's.
Yeah, the Coachman's is the one I was thinking of. It's just the guy couldn't get financing, I suppose. But it seems like the big wigs come in from out of town, and they get financing, and they build these giant templates that were, built some other place first. That Astra Tower existed in Boston before it existed in Salt Lake City, and then that Post place exists. It's in Denver, and now it's here. But it's just like this cookie cutter stamp,
homogenizing everything.
Yeah. Do you see any hope to ending or stopping the centralization of power and money? We're seeing a growing gap between the rich and the poor. Less, it seems, economic opportunity, more high housing costs.
No, because the people that have the wealth are choosing this path, and it's a path of concentration and consolidation, and they don't care about the rest of us. They don't care about the middle class. They don't care about the lower classes. They don't care about the homeless. And the only thing I can determine or detect they do care about is their own affluence, and it's all about greed.
Yeah,
it's just that's the what age I don't of seem greed. To get it. We thought that was true of the 80s, but the 80s greed is nothing to what we got going on now. I don't mean to pick on Taylor Swift, but it's news that she sold one of her 2 private jets. I mean, wow, way to save the environment.
Yeah, her billions of dollars she earned on her tour, and everybody loves Taylor. But she's just like the product of the commercial record industry now.
I have a very good friend, Kate McLeod, local musician. She's been here for virtually her entire adult life. She can't make a living here.
Yeah.
And I think she gets checks from Spotify every year, $12. Try and live on that.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. Just... Why aren't we? You mentioned, bookstores as a cultural institution. Well, we have lots of literary, bookstore, artistic, art galleries, things that do mean things to a great deal of us, and that are about our art and culture and are spiritual and powerful and enabling for people.
Yeah.
But we don't fund them. We don't help them. And if we care about them, why is that? Why don't we do that? I don't have any answers for that.
Well, to me, you look at our landscape here, and you find that depression is running rampant, isolation. A lot of people get addicted to drugs. Then we see the result of that in the homeless population. And you think about, well, what leads to quality of life? What creates quality of life? And how come that's not the priority instead of the developer greed? And it's obviously when you can walk in a business and you can see a business owner that has more quality than walking in and you have a screen and you punch out your order and it pops out. It's just like...
I went to a place, I won't name it, to order a chicken sandwich, and literally you had to do everything on some computer screen outside. And it's like, they don't let you in anymore. It's
and everything's...
okay, I'm voting with my feet. Yeah. I left.
Yeah. And I just see that I had this guy on named Joseph Grenny who started the Other Side Academy, which helps
Oh my God.
felons get a second chance. And his son explained the bottom rungs of that economic ladder are broken. You can't just get back up off your feet because
Amen.
there are all these broken rungs that are almost deliberately gone because there's no vocational training for the people at the bottom anymore. If you've gotten a felony conviction, you're getting out of prison, you need some way to have a skill to earn money. So instead, they've created a new vocation, which is called being disabled. And you get on the disabled rolls of SSID and you get free money. And the only trick is you got to stay home and do nothing. And then what are you going to do? Drink alcohol and use drugs, and you'll get paid. And eventually you qualify for housing. So the government solutions to the problem are failing.
Absolutely. The Other Side Academy, I happened to be the Chamber of Commerce meeting, which I never go to, years ago when they came to town. And these two guys got up and said, "Hi, my name is so-and-so. I'm a drug addict." The other guy said, "My name's so-and-so. I'm a felon."
Mm-hmm.
And they just blew me away that
They're
day.
amazing, that
I've
program.
hired them and used them because what they're doing is what the rest of us talk about. Mm-hmm. Now, sure, they're picky. Gee, to enter the program, you have to want to change your life. That's the criteria. Mm-hmm. And they'll take you in.
Sign up for 2 years.
It doesn't cost you anything. Is it hard? I'm betting it's really hard. As far as I know, they cut you off from your family and so-called friends. Mm-hmm. And they work your butt off. Mm-hmm. They teach you skills. I've hired these guys a bunch for movers.
You're lucky you found them. I've wanted. After they graduate from the program, they are like the top people. Businesses want to hire as well. They have the skills. They have the work ethic, and
they have a work ethic instilled in that's like insane. Mm-hmm. And the last time we had a group, I thought they were the other side, but they're not. It's just, but they are. I can't remember the fellow's name. He's a graduate of the Other Side. And guess what? He has a moving company now, and he will only hire Other Side graduates as employees. Hmm. And I always usually they work a 4-man crew. They have overseer.
Well, the moving company is part of the Other Side Academy.
Yes, I know.
But they have, he has a separate moving company.
Yeah, this guy's branched out on his own, which is exactly what they want, right?
That's awesome.
So they have a 4-man crew, a couple of grunts, a supervisor in training, and then the guy that's been there the longest. Mm-hmm. And I interview them all. I talk to them, and they, the one thing they all say to me, "Look, I'm really, really glad I found this program. It's done so much for me." But then they turn it around on you. But we're the reason why this program works. If it weren't for us, it wouldn't work. They have taken ownership and pride in that. Mm-hmm. And they're absolutely right. Mm-hmm. And you can't hire anybody that's going to work harder than those guys do. And mm-hmm. they do women programs now, too. They started out just doing men. Yeah. And they're allegedly building, you probably know more about it than I do, this little tiny village concept on the west side mm-hmm. in partnership with the city. I'm all for that. Awesome. They're putting their money where their mouth is.
Well, it's growing. They're little.
Yes.
It used to be one mansion, and now it's a big campus and multiple
they're
buildings.
Going both directions.
And it's so great because I did a tour just a couple months ago, and we've had kids with behavior problems from the foster care system. And their protocol for the behavior problem adults is exactly what you got to use with kids, which is you hold them accountable, you make sure they're aware of the problem, and they have something called a step down where, okay, we can't deal with what you did right now. We're going to move on with the day. But if you got a step down, you're spending 10 minutes after dinner cleaning something. And that means you didn't do your job. You talked back to your supervisor. You did something to disrespect your colleagues or your boss. And it's like, you got to do that same thing with kids. Otherwise they want to rule roost. They want to take over. So it's just personal accountability, people taking pride in doing work and having a work ethic. And then they learn those skills. Yeah, learning actual skills. And like this fellow graduate of the Other Side now is the boss of his own company. Yeah, that's and he's continuing. Awesome. Yeah. In the private sector, what the Other Side is doing. Yeah, and
it doesn't get better than
and it's
that.
zero government funding. It's nothing. And meanwhile, we're spending, if you count everything, all the ancillary services and everything, $300 million a year for homeless issues and homeless support, and more money for free apartments where they're using drugs all day inside of the apartments. And I just see it as it's a failed concept to believe you can make somebody disabled and tell them they can't do anything, stay at home because you're worthless, and somehow that's going to improve their situation. It's like, no. Yeah, but it's a interesting dynamic to look at downtown. And
so I just wish there were more. Maybe there are, and I just don't know. There's other things going on like the other side.
There in other states there are, but as far as what I notice is you've got the Road Home organization, which runs Magnolia Apartments, Wendell Apartments, Grace Mary Manor. There's another one I'm forgetting. Those places are cesspools for drug activity, sex trafficking, that deteriorated the neighborhoods all around them. And it's because they don't give people any dignity of work. I think dignity doesn't come from having a free apartment. You get dignity from having a place to go to work and put your talents and efforts.
Well, you take everything away from people. The last thing you take away from them is hope.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't have that left, there's nothing left to lose.
Yeah, but you've thought about this problem and studied it. Obviously we need more cheap housing. That would be a great solution that we're not providing.
No.
But other than that, what do you think the government or the public, I should say, should do to help alleviate this growing problem?
Well, when we can identify services that are working, in my opinion, the other side is at the top of that list. And I'm not tons of money, but I try to give money, to all manner of shelters and, Utahns Against Hunger, et cetera, to help out where I can. Mm-hmm. Identify charities that are doing good work and fund them. Mm-hmm. Vote with your feet, vote with your pocketbook. Mm-hmm. I try to hire other side people anytime I can.
Yeah.
Because they're giving people back the hope by what you said. They're fixing those broken bottom rungs. Mm-hmm. So they're not throwing money at them. They're allowing them to heal themselves. They're allowing them to get their pride and their humanness and their hope back. And I don't think throwing money doesn't do that.
No. Yeah, I don't think that's the solution. Yeah, well, there's a lot of other things that we could talk about. I'm sure you probably have to go sometime soon, but it's been awesome to have you on. I want to encourage everybody, go to your new shop. And can you grab that book, Allegra, The Monkey Wrench Gang? It's like right behind you. It's got the colorful
it's on the top shelf.
Oh, is it on the top there?
Red lettering. Left, right, hardback. No, one more. No, other way. Bingo.
Yeah, you still have these for sale, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, Edward Abbey's The Monkey Wrench Gang, first published in 1975 in an edition of 5,000 copies. It didn't sell out its first printing and was remaindered.
Yeah.
For the 10th anniversary in 1985, I'd started working on this 5 years earlier. Ed, who's got the rights to the hardbound Monkey Wrench Gang? He didn't know. Ed Abbey was not a good businessman. He was a great writer.
So it's different rights, the softbound
compared
to the hardbound.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So when he figured out that he had them, he says, "Ken, just go ahead and publish it. I won't tell anyone." It doesn't really work like that, Ed. Whoever does own the copyright probably would sue me. But it turned out it was Ed.
Yeah.
So I wanted Robert Crumb to illustrate it. He turned me down cold because genius, and I'm not. we went through a whole bunch, 2 or 3 years, other illustrated. Nobody was going to work. I could see in my mind's eye Robert Crumb's version of the gang. It's the only book Ed Abbey wrote that Crumb could even conceivably illustrate.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote Crumb again and offered him.
You didn't know him then?
I knew him a bit, not well.
Mm-hmm.
I knew
and just
a
little bit of background. He was kind of a 60s icon.
He was underground most famous underground cartoonist.
Yeah, incredible.
Zap Comics, Mr. Natural, Fritz the Cat.
Yeah, just brilliant, dude.
Brilliant and disturbing, troubled.
Disturbed.
The Crumb documentary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this time I sent him a paperback. Once he read it, oh my God, he just bought into it totally. So we had Ed and Robert come out. We did a series of autograph parties in Salt Lake at my old bookshop, the Cosmic Airplane, at the University of Utah bookstore, which is really, really weird because I've never ever done anything with them before or since. But they wanted that, but it was like 300 copies up there. Wow. And then down at Ken Slight's bookshop in Moab. And then we had a dinner up at Arches. We created a traffic jam into Arches Park that night. The Rangers weren't very happy with that. I don't blame them. We didn't mean to do it.
What year was this?
1985.
Wow. Yeah.
And I sold out the first printing of 5,000 copies and printed 5,000 more.
That's awesome.
And I've been kept. It's the thing I've published that I'm the most proud of.
Oh, it's so cool.
Done 2 or 3 dozen books.
Like some of the illustrations in here are just awesome. And it was so cool to talk to Ken Slight a few years ago.
Oh man, Ken!
And he's just such a character, and he's one of the main characters in here.
Seldom seen Smith.
Yeah, but just
what we need here, God, is one little precision earthquake. He's praying on Glen Canyon.
Yeah, and you were part of the crew that put the giant crack on a piece of cloth.
Accidentally, I'd been bugging Ed about these publishing projects. And in 81, he called me up. I never called Ed because Ed did not talk on telephones. If you called him up, it was like having a Zen conversation. He didn't talk.
Really?
So, Ken, if you want to talk about that silly calendar of yours, come down to Lone Rock Campground for some kind of spring rites. That's all I'd been planning my first backpack into the maze about that time. So I took off several days early, drove my old 54 Chev truck down to Lone Rock, down by Wahweap, and Glen Canyon City. Alex Joseph was the polygamist, was the mayor. He had just renamed it to Big Water.
Oh yeah, okay. I do remember Big Water here.
And we show up down there, and there's this Volkswagen bus covered in black plastic blocking the road, and all these hippie-looking cowboys down at me. Who the hell are you? What the hell are you doing here? I didn't really care for their bedside manner, shall we say. The last thing I'm going to do is say Ed Abbey sent me. I said, F you, and backed the truck up. Had a pretty tense standoff till later that evening when Abbey shows up and they realize I'm a friend of Ed's. They gleefully, this is Dave Foreman, Howie Woke, Mike Rozelle, Bart Kohler company, Ron Kezar, the founders of Earth First. And there were, I don't know, a couple of dozen of us by then. Gleefully tell me their plans of rolling a 300-foot long, 20-foot wide, tapered to nothing plastic crack down the face of the dam early the next morning. Sounds interesting. I'm in. So we did it.
And that's such a cool thing to do because it's not violent, it's not destructive, but it makes such a huge statement.
Oh, it made that gave Earth First national exposure overnight.
And it seemed like that picture showed up everywhere, didn't it? Like, New York Times was national.
Oh yeah, it was huge.
Yeah, and I mean, I won't get in too much of the whole political landscape around monkey wrenching, but it's still a big thing. it's still,
Well, there's no
and it's,
question that the Monkey Wrench Gang, a novel, inspired the real life group of Earth First,
mhm,
which in turn splintered off into groups like ALF and ELF, the Earth Liberation Front, the Animal Liberation Front,
mhm.
and others.
And unfortunately they got, I think it was ALF got labeled as domestic terrorism group.
Well, it's, you know, so did Earth First, but we were trying to use guerrilla theater, especially to, because the anti-environmentalists, the anti-wilderness advocates, you know, the Sierra Club, the goddamn Sahara Club, the Wilderness Society, Grand Canyon Trust, they are a bunch of radical, wild-eyed, bomb-throwing Bolsheviks. Well, they weren't.
Mhm.
So we set out with humor to do gonzo-style events that would make them look very staid and conservative in comparison. So, oh, hey, we can actually talk to these Sahara Clubbers, those crazy Earth Firsters. They're terrorists.
Mhm.
They're eco terrorists. And that was kind of the point. We would have our own counter demonstrations. When we did the 2 years later, when we did return to Lake Powell because they were doing a 20th anniversary birthday party, we did a funeral party, and we brought our own protest groups with us. Earth Last,
Mhm.
Mutants for What. We're out there to have fun.
So you this kind of spurred off of the idea that the Sierra Club was too staunch and too serious.
Well,
and being too,
no, that
right?
they were too radical.
Oh, they were too, and you needed you needed to moderate and soften
So
that image a little bit.
we became the new radical, pushing them back into the middle.
Got it, huh? Okay.
And it worked.
Interesting.
We had a lot of fun in the 80s chasing James Watt around the West.
How much sand was poured in the crankshafts of bulldozers and things?
I wouldn't have the foggiest
because I didn't
I did.
hear that.
It's not
often.
something I ever did.
Yeah.
We and that those years of chasing Watt, I've forgotten his name offhand. This super hot shit climber. So we had his secret itinerary, and he shows up at Zion Park right after we were chasing him at Lake Powell.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy climbs up in the effing dark and dumps this giant billboard across the face of the park that says, "Burn Watt, not coal." Then in Moab, I got a secret phone call about Watt's coming to, this is right after we'd been chasing him at Glen Canyon. He was there for the birthday party and claimed that he didn't even know we were there. So we had this leftover James Watt dummy. It was in a suit, and it had crushed Coors cans in its hands and had 666 painted across its forehead. Well, a friend of mine and I were going to Moab for some R&R. And that's we learned, well, Watt's going to go to the park 8:30 in the morning. They're going to park at North Window, and he's going to walk 50 feet. So a friend of ours didn't want to know what we were going to do. Said, because the FBI had been videotaping my truck all for a week down at Glen Canyon. We'd been on videotape. Oh, geez, had
They were tracking
squad teams out there ready to take us out. And my 54 Chev pickup truck, kind of conspicuous. So my friend said, "I'm not really doing anything with my truck tonight if you need to borrow it." So we wrapped the Watt dummy up on a big wad of plastic, and my friend and I drove into the park at 3 o'clock in the morning. And we get into a big argument, and she's a hot shit climber. She wanted to hang Watt's dummy from a noose at Balanced Rock so they'd see it. And I said, no, we can't touch Balanced Rock. That's not going to be a good visual. We need to leave this dummy exactly where he's going to get out of the car. So we did. We got him down on his knees, his hands with the crushed Coors cans, praying to heaven. And there might have been a few little spray painted slogans for him. And the next morning, so we're leaving the windows. We get back to the main road, and the hair on the back of my neck literally rose, because all across the highway was graffiti now. It said, James Watt, a national disgrace. 30 minutes earlier, that spray paint wasn't on that road. There was someone else creepy crawling around in that park at 3 o'clock in the morning, and they damn well knew we were there, but we didn't know they were. Next morning, of course they won't show the national TV. His face is beet red, and he's screaming at one of our spray painted signs at these vandals who would destroy our national parks. They won't show the Watt dummy, of course. No, you're the vandal, pal. Found out later, and the only reason I'll reveal it is because she's deceased. Joan Swanson was 26 years old. She was the youngest head of a national park, female head of a national park service at that time in the entire country. She spray painted that slogan.
How come I'm not
she
surprised?
Was out there creepy crawling in the park with us at 3 a.m.
Wow. Huh. Yeah, that's interesting. and just a little background. Who was James Watt? Why were you so opposed to him?
James Watt. Ronald Reagan is a direct political payoff for funding his presidency from the Rocky Mountain States Legal Foundation that was funded by the Coors family. Bill Coors and James Watt was a lawyer with Rocky Mountain Legal. He got 3 political appointments. They got James Watt as Secretary of the Interior, Robert Burford, the BLM, and Ann Gorsuch, the head of the EPA. So we ran all 3 of them out of office. None of the 3.
They just got that appointment terms. Because they were cronies.
It was a payoff
with Reagan.
To Reagan, to the Rocky Mountain States.
Interesting. So
Gorsuch and Burford got married afterwards. And what's the last name of a recent Trump Supreme Court justice? Neil Gorsuch. That's the spawn of the Reagan cabinet.
No kidding. Interesting. Wow.
Those days seem like yesterday to me, but it's hard to imagine. I mean, this was what was this from 80 to 84?
Well, you look at the Department of the Interior and you look at Glen Canyon, and I mean, that decision to dam Glen Canyon and turn it into Lake Powell, that was made. What in the 60s?
It was made
60s,
in the 40s, early 50s.
So
they began construction in 56.
Yeah.
The coffer dams weren't closed until 63, and that's when Glen Canyon began dying. Floyd C. Dominy was the director of the Bureau of Reclamation. John McPhee wrote a brilliant book called Encounters with the Archdruid. He took David Brower, who was the Archdruid, down a Grand Canyon River trip with Floyd C. Dominy, and they argued for 2 weeks. And he turned it into a book.
I'll have to read that.
It's a really good one. One of McPhee's best, I think. And he's written a lot of good books.
Yeah, I look at that whole issue, and it's like, it's there. There's not much you can do about it now. It's filling up with silt at this incredible rate. It's not generating that much electricity, I've heard, anymore, because it's so full of silt. And
yep, it is. Though it's beautiful because, we did 2 years ago, we did a Glen Canyon Institute cat trip. And actually, my friend Kate McLeod and I are with Crate Incorporated are doing a Cataract Canyon trip over Memorial Day weekend. I tell stories and lies, and she plays music, writes songs. And
awesome.
We'll get to see parts of the upper Glen Canyon that's been voided now. And yeah, it's towering piles of mud. And They've named it the Domini Formation after Floyd. And what's beautiful about it, all these eradication attempts to get rid of that damn tamarisk, it's up there and the water's down here, and it's dying off naturally because its roots don't go to water anymore. So you just take the water away and it dies.
That's awesome.
Who knew?
Yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Anyhow, we could keep going on forever.
Yeah,
Rich,
well, thanks.
Been fun. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Ken.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate having you on. Yeah, check out Monkey Wrench Gang. This is the book he's published with Edward Abbey and Art Crum, and the shop at the Leonardo. It's an awesome place. And yeah, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.